This video is going to be our Unit 0 review lessons. This is lesson number 2, and this lesson is all about different number forms. So just like in our last video, we're going to first make our target. This is what we want to be able to do by the end of this lesson. And our learning target here is to be able to read and write numbers in different forms. So for this lesson, our key ideas and our vocabulary are kind of the same, right? This is our key idea / vocabulary. So in this lesson, we're going to be reading and writing numbers in a few different forms, and hopefully these sound familiar. We're going to be using standard form, which would be like a regular number. So something like 203,011, right? That would be written in standard form. And another kind of form we're going to use is called expanded form. And there's a few different ways that you can use expanded form and write things in an expanded form. Probably the most common way is to take the value of each digit and write it as a number, as in standard form. So for example, the 2 here represents 200,000. So we'd write 200,000 plus, and then this next one has a 0, so we don't need any value for that 0. Our next number would be 3. This 3 has a value of 3,000. Here's another 0. This 1 has a value of 10. And this 1 has a value of 1. So this is probably the most common expanded form, is where I'm taking each digit that's not a 0 and I'm writing the value of the digit as an addition problem. Okay, so I'm just going to put that as like a little reminder. It's the value of each digit, and then we write it as an addition problem. Another kind of form of numbers that we're going to be using is word form. And so this is the way that we would say the number. And there's a few reasons why we would write the words out, like if you are writing a check. But most of the time, the word form is what we would say. We don't very often write it out in word form unless we're just practicing word form. But if I was going to read this number, I would say 203,011. And so if I were going to write word form, I would write out those words. So each of these sections of 3 numbers, that's called a period. And then each comma is where I'm going to say a place value. So I'm going to put a little note here that comma means I say a place value. So if I were going to write this number, I'd write 203,000. And then I'm actually going to put a comma there as well, right? That's the first period, 203,000. And then this next part, I would say 11. So that would be an example of word form. The last kind of form that we're going to use sometimes is called unit form. And unit form is kind of a combination of other forms put together. So it's what happens when we combine other forms. So for example, if I were going to write this number in unit form, there's different ways I could do it. But one way is I could write each of the periods as a unit, right? So I could write 203 thousands like this, 203 thousands plus 11 ones, right? So I'm kind of combining things. Like here I have a number and a place value written in words. So unit form usually has a number and then a word place value. But there's lots of different ways that you can combine them to have a number and a place value written. Now, in this lesson, what you're going to be practicing is both reading and writing numbers in different forms. So if you're given one of these forms, you should be able to write and say the number in some of the other forms as well. Good luck with your practice on lesson 2.